Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third half podcast by the FCS Live team. I'm Jared Kleppel along with Gerard Iscani tonight. We're very excited for tonight. We have a very special guest joining us tonight, don't we, Gerard?
We sure do.
Today's podcast is all about goalkeepers in the FCS, and we'd like to know, who is your pick for the best goalkeeper in the FCS? This is going to be our question all podcast long. So put your thoughts in the chat. Let us know who you think it is, and we'll give our take later on, and our special guest is going to join us in just here in a bit. But along with our special guest, Gerard, we're going to be talking about recapping the weekend and looking at what's to come as well as the playoff picture.
Yeah, a big reason our special guest is here tonight is we both were wrong about what was going to happen last weekend. And as we watched the game, there was one player that made a tremendous impact and put their stamp on the game. And there's a lot of contributions, but one specifically really sealed the deal. And so excited to have him here tonight.
And that's where we're going to begin. We're actually starting tonight's podcast episode by welcoming our very special guest, Detroit Imperial goalkeeper Emerson Mena. Also on the podcast is Rafa Romero, here to do some interpreting. He is bilingual and Emerson only knows Spanish. So, Emerson, welcome to the podcast.
Mena, y aquí estoy para las preguntas que deseen.
Hi, my name is Jefferson Mena, and I'm here today to answer any question that you guys might have for me. I'm very glad to be here.
Well, we're super glad to have you here. I know for me, watching you play goalkeeper in the Futsal Champions Series for Detroit Imperial, I've seen you in 2 games, and in both games, I've been very, very impressed by your play. And, we'd love to hear a little bit about your story in futsal and how you made it here to the United States. So the first question is, gosh, where did you learn to play keeper like that?
So, la primera pregunta que tenemos para ti es, ¿dónde has aprendido a parar de la manera que lo haces? Es muy impresionante.
Como le digo, empecé a tapar a los 13 años en fútbol de salón, y a medida que fui escalando a los 17 años ya estaba jugando profesional. Y tuve la virtud de entrenar con un entrenador que fue campeón en el 87. En el Mundial de México de fútbol de salón fue el que me entrenó a ser, como decía, el portero que soy de hoy en día.
So I started when I was 13 playing indoor soccer. And when I was 17, then I moved into futsal. And I had the luck to play with a coach that won the 1987 World Cup.
Wow.
For indoor soccer.
Wow.
One of the things that was really interesting as we've watched you play over the last couple of games for Detroit Imperial, it's really been the positioning that has really stood out for me. And then to learn that you used to play center field and baseball, how do you feel like those skills from center field and baseball to goalie and futsal translated?
Después de haber escuchado que jugaste béisbol cuando eras más joven, entendiendo que jugabas posiciones como centerfield y shortstop, ¿cómo ha influido esa experiencia en tu juego para ser portero?
Por lo menos entre el shortstop y centerfield a veces son unas posiciones donde uno se tira mucho a escoger pelota, eso, y como que eso me llevó a lo mismo que el portero. No es lo mismo, pero para mí es como algo parecido.
So taking into account that playing shortstop and center field is 2 positions that are going to demand you to dive for balls, it kind of helps you with kind of tracking the ball and having the vision of how to position yourself on the field to be able to stop those balls. So for him, it's kind of like, even though it's not the same, it is definitely helpful having been in that position before.
Tell me, you're from Venezuela, and I got to learn a little bit about your journey in futsal. just off air, we talked about your journey in futsal and a little bit of how you got to the United States to be playing for Detroit Imperial. Tell us, how did you, coming from Venezuela, how did you find yourself here in Michigan, in the United States, playing for Detroit Imperial in the Futsal Champions Series?
Bueno, teniendo en cuenta que hemos hablado ya de un poquito de tu pasado y tu recorrido en el fútbol sala, siendo venezolano, habiendo escuchado, pues, cómo has pasado desde estar en Venezuela a llegar aquí, cuéntanos un poco cómo llega un venezolano a Michigan. ¿Cuál es el recorrido que has tenido que pasar para poder llegar hasta aquí?
Como para nada es un secreto lo que está pasando en el país, Venezuela. Fue un accidente, perdí mi pasaporte en Ecuador. Porque de jugar
1
la liga.
second, sorry. Bring the mic a little closer. Yeah, there you go.
A pesar de está como mi país Venezuela, yo tuve un accidente en Ecuador y perdí mi pasaporte. Y no pude seguir jugando la liga por no tener identificación. Y decidí regresar a Venezuela a ver si conseguía mi pasaporte y no pude. Y para nada es un secreto, como se vino una multitud hacia Estados Unidos. Pasé Colombia, de la Selva, Panamá, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, México, hasta llegar aquí, no sé si muchos no recuerdan, pero hay algo que se llama CP1. Yo esperé una cita, duré 2 meses esperándola en México y me salió. Llegué a Atlanta, duré como 8 meses y tengo como 4 meses aquí en Detroit.
Well, I think it's not a secret of the political and social situation that Venezuela has been having in the past years, that I had to find myself in the opportunity to have to leave my country. I got the chance to play in different countries like Ecuador, Argentina, Panama, and in one accident, I lost my passport. Couldn't go back to my country, couldn't go back to the countries that I was playing at. So I had to basically go into a journey that it's no secret anymore for the American public, which is I had to cross through Panama, Honduras, El Salvador, Mexico. And once I was in Mexico, there's an arrangement called CP1 that would allow me to come into the country. And after that, he got the CP1. I was in Atlanta, Georgia. After that, New York. And then after a series of events, I found myself in Michigan playing for Detroit Imperial.
One of the things I thought was really interesting talking to you earlier, learning about you and your journey is in your communication with Detroit Imperial, they told you at like 6 p.m. that they had training like 3 hours later, and that night you were in goal training. What was that like to have it transition so quickly?
Bueno, como nos has contado antes, el día que vienes aquí a Michigan, a Detroit, justo ese mismo día tú les envías un mensaje a Detroit Imperial preguntándoles que cuándo van a tener una práctica, y se lo envías a las 5 y ellos te responden a las 6 diciéndote que dentro de 3 horas estuvieses listo porque ibas a tener entrenamiento ese día. ¿Cómo fue organizar eso? ¿Cómo te sentiste durante ese momento?
Como te dije, yo no me habían respondido los mensajes y llegué a las 5 de la tarde aquí. Como a las 5:30 me respondieron que entrenaban de lunes a jueves, de 9 a 12 o 11. Y casualidad era jueves y ese día fue mi primer entrenamiento. Y me sentí un poco contento, pero ya tenía como 8 meses que algo que te gusta o te apasiona, no lo practicas, no lo jugaba entre amigos ni nada. Y entrené, y a pesar de que fue un poco difícil porque no hablan español, el único que medio habla español es David, pero fue una nueva experiencia para mí.
So at first, it was just a moment of excitement for me. I mean, it had been 8 months since I got to practice the sport that at the end of the day is my passion. I love to play it, and I was just happy, you know. The day that I went to practice, it was just like a nice feeling. Even though obviously they do not speak Spanish, you know, it was a little hard in the communication side. But taking into account that someone that kind of speaks Spanish is David, that kind of like helped me to feel more comfortable.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, it is. You know, the first time we saw you play was here in Lansing City, and we talked about that on the broadcast that there was this language barrier, but it seemed like your ability to play and it really transcended language. And so in what way during the games have you been able to communicate with the team with that language barrier?
Aunque todos pensábamos que bueno, que teniendo en cuenta que había una barrera con el tema del lenguaje, que iba a ser complicado para ti poder comunicarte con tus compañeros, ¿cuál ha sido el mayor reto? ¿O es este el mayor reto que has tenido al llegar aquí para aclimatarte el idioma? Y cuando estás en un partido, ¿en qué momentos has encontrado que has podido comunicarte con tus compañeros bien, aun teniendo en cuenta que, bueno, no habláis el mismo idioma?
Bueno, a veces es un poco difícil porque está el idioma y uno como portero es como los ojos en la espalda de ellos para organizarlo en la cancha. A veces frustra un poco que tú los quieras que ellos tengan una posición y no estén. Y a veces hay decisiones que toman uno de los porteros que son de segundo. Y hay veces que ellos no hacen... Yo los necesito que tengan una posición y no están y me toca a mí salir a tratar de parar el ataque del otro equipo ya. Pero a veces es un poco difícil por el tema del idioma que ellos estén en la posición donde deben estar para poder que nos salgan las cosas como tienen que salir para poder ganar un partido.
So it's very interesting because a keeper, it's basically the eyes behind the defense. You know, it's the most important part for a goalkeeper. It's the communication side, and sometimes I want them in a certain specific position so that the game is gonna be more fluid. But I have to correct that mistakes with coming out, maybe sometimes taking risky decisions just because taking into account that it's going to be a challenge for me. So I have to correct them with my own play.
Wow, that's so interesting. What a statement, correcting with the play. I mean, that's a whole challenge that you don't even really think about or recognize, especially if you don't know that a language barrier exists for a player on the court. But I mean, I know that in the 2 games that I've seen you play, Emerson, I've seen you do things, techniques, how you've made kick saves and how you've come out to cut off angles, things that are not common in this league. And I'm curious about if you could tell us just a little bit about some of your favorite or most competitive experiences in futsal up to this point, like in some of the other places that you've played.
Could you repeat that last part?
Yeah. So I'm curious about the like his favorite experiences playing futsal up to this point, like some of the other leagues he's played in, some of the fun moments. I know we talked a little bit about his time in Argentina, just to kind of give us and the viewers a little picture into what his futsal life was like before coming to the States.
So, nos gustaría escuchar en qué momentos te recuerdas de tu historia, ¿sabes? O sea, nos has contado cosas muy interesantes como lo que significa la hinchada en Argentina, o historias como la organización de las ligas en Panamá, teniendo en cuenta que no es solo una liga, sino que las ligas las organizan seguramente o muchas veces diferentes compañías. ¿Qué momentos son de los que más te recuerdas que nos puedas contar? ¿Momentos graciosos o interesantes o que te hayan marcado para llegar a donde estás hoy?
Por lo menos cuando jugué en Panamá sabes que hay personas malas y hay personas buenas, por lo menos en el tiempo que yo jugué en Panamá estaban haciendo las cosas mal los venezolanos y los colombianos. Y fue un poco frustrante porque habían partidos televisados que le prohibían al dueño del equipo que sea yo, que era el portero principal, que tapara, y a veces me mandaban que me quitara la ropa, me divistiera y me fuera para las gradas. Y de los momentos así emocionantes, como te dije, la hinchada en Argentina, que es una locura, que es algo que, por lo menos en mi primer juego, yo salí a jugar y ya uno está acostumbrado. Argentina, la hinchada que le dicen barra brava, eso sentía que apenas lo veía esta gente cantando, tocando los te paran los pelos y sabes que si das el 100 tienes que dar el 1000 porque te critican o te tratan mal.
So it's just like in any place, you find good people and bad people. Unfortunately, when I was in Panama, I had to deal with the fact that there was this stigma against Venezuelans and Colombians. So a lot of times, because the people that organized the league was the public television, they prohibited me from playing, making my team make me dress up as like a regular person and go to the stands, even though I was a starting keeper at that time.
Wow.
And a very exciting moment, like we heard before, it was feeling what a true fan base looks like. In Argentina, they're very passionate, and that makes you go into a game and look around and kind of like get goosebumps.
Wow.
And it's very interesting because sometimes you go into a game wanting to give 100%, but in Argentina, you go wanting to give the 1,000% because it makes people have a better image of you, because you know that if you have a bad game, those same fans that are cheering for you while you're playing are going to be criticizing you after the game is done.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. That's a really cool experience. Wow. What kind of questions do you have, Gerard?
Well, you know, one of the things we talked a lot about Michael Forbes and his presence in goal. When he comes back to the team, when he's healthy, how do you all both work together? Is there a way that both of you fit on the field at the same time?
Teniendo en cuenta que el otro portero, Michael Forbes, es también muy importante para el equipo, ¿qué dinámica tienes tú con él? ¿Qué relación tienes tú con él? ¿Cabe la posibilidad de que los dos podáis aclimataros y congeniar en un mismo sistema?
Sí, a pesar de por el idioma, que es lo que nos divide un poco, pero nos llevamos muy bien. Me llevo muy bien con él y con Miguel, que es el otro portero, que él sí habla español. Y es el que por lo menos, si decimos de consejo, si hablamos de consejo, él es el que un poquito más le podía hablar porque hablamos en español. Pero con los dos me llevo muy bien y con Miguel, con Forbes juego mucho. Nos jugamos, nos hacemos broma mientras estamos entrenando también. Si él sale a quererme hacer un gol o yo igual, jugamos mucho y bromeamos entre nosotros dos.
I have a fantastic relationship with him. I mean, at the end of the day, we're both teammates, and it's very interesting to be able to compete with someone for the same position. There's a third keeper named Miguel who can speak Spanish, so usually in terms of communication, it's probably the one that I speak to the most. But me and Michael have an excellent relationship. In training, we compete a lot of times. You know, he'll come out a goal and try to score on me, or I'll come out a goal and try to score on him. So, I mean, we just have a fantastic relationship.
That's awesome. That's really cool. You know, I'm curious about Emerson. I'm curious about your experience playing here in the FCS compared to where you've played in the past, and you know some of those places you played in the world. What has your experience been like here? I know I've only been here playing for Detroit for about 4 months. But if you had to try to compare your past experiences playing in futsal leagues, if I'm not mistaken, you've been playing futsal for 12 years. Is that probably right, I think?
Más o menos las fechas, llevas jugando fútbol sala o fútbol en indoor por 12 años. Okay. More accurately, 17, 18.
Or like 17, 18 years. Okay. So you've had a lot of experience playing this game, but only 4 months in the United States. So can you give us some comparisons of what your experience has been like here versus in other places?
Teniendo en cuenta que has jugado en muchos países del mundo, en diferentes ligas, ¿cómo ha sido tu experiencia aquí en Estados Unidos con Detroit Imperial? Sabemos que has estado jugando solo por 4 meses, pero si tuvieses que comparar experiencias en el extranjero o aquí, ¿cómo describirías lo que estás viviendo ahora mismo aquí en Detroit Imperial?
Como sabemos, en los países que he estado son diferentes, las modalidades de juego de los jugadores son diferentes, de los equipos, y hay diferentes categorías, como se puede decir. Pero aquí me siento bien y gracias a Dios no esperé que me llegara la oportunidad tan rápido de ser titular con el equipo. Pero lo que he vivido ha sido bueno, una bonita experiencia, ¿no? Y me está gustando. A pesar, como le dije, que la mejor experiencia mía ha sido en Argentina, esta se le puede comparar un poco.
So, I mean, I am very happy to be here. I did not expect to get the chance to be a starter this early with Detroit Imperial. But if I had to compare it, like taking into account that Argentina was somewhere that I really, really enjoyed playing in, this is kind of like a place that I'm very comfortable and that I have kind of find a place for myself, expecting to, stay here for a long time.
Very cool. Very cool. You got anything?
So many questions come to mind. To go back to on the field or on the court and understanding positioning against Lansing City, it seemed like you always knew where to be for the attack. So like so many times Jeremy Kleppel went to take a shot, you were in a position that seemed really dangerous, but you made a fantastic save. How did you know where to be so often against Lansing City?
So, cuando jugaste contra Lansing City, era como si tú supieses dónde iban a estar todos los jugadores en todo momento. Tuviste un partido magnífico y había momentos en los que Jeremy Kleppel, el jugador de Lansing City, iba a tirar y la gente pensaba que estabas en una posición un poco peligrosa, pero acababas haciendo una parada bastante espectacular. ¿Cómo sabías dónde colocarte en todo momento en aquel partido? ¿Era intuición? ¿Era trabajo de equipo en el que habéis estudiado las situaciones? ¿Cómo fue un poquito esa situación?
Como le dije, el que me entrenó, que fue campeón mundial en el 87 en México, él tenía como una teoría que la arquería es la mitad de un reloj. Y de donde esté posicionado el jugador, es como decir una hora que ande está el balón y siempre tienes que estar en línea con él. No sé cómo explicárselo, pero en cada posición que el jugador esté en la cancha, yo tengo que estar en un lugar específico de la arquería. Igual si él pasa, me ayuda a salir a quitarle el balón yo mismo, o ya que él remate hacia la arquería, yo tenga la posibilidad de taparle la pelota.
So, like I said earlier, I had the chance to be able to work with a world champion in futsal. So he had this theory that a goal was like a clock. So wherever a player is, you have to counter that with a specific positioning in your goal. That kind of has helped me to just continue to understand the field more and continue to see that if a player is, let's say, at imagining 3 o'clock, I know exactly what time of the clock, positioning wise, I have to be in.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
It is. I mean, there's this one moment on a corner kick where the ball was passed across the court to Jeremy Kleppel. He was at the, probably if we're looking at like a clock and 6 o'clock is like the center of the court, he's probably at like 7, 8 o'clock. And you came almost out of the penalty area to stop the ball. And that's something that I don't think we've seen any other goalie do, to come out that far.
Not on a breakaway, probably.
Yeah, not
We've
on a
seen it
breakaway.
Breakaways, but
yeah, but
in that case,
on a situation, because there were people even behind you, and so that's the part I think about is when you come out that far on a corner kick, how do you know to protect, like, that you're protecting your backside in that situation?
Hubo una jugada contra Lansing City en la que había un córner y Jeremy Klepal estaba fuera, en el medio del campo, y tú tuviste la valentía de salir casi de tu área para robarle la pelota. La pregunta es, en esas situaciones, cuando tú sales a por un jugador que sales de manera que mucha gente pensaría arriesgada, ¿cómo sabes que estás protegiendo tu portería detrás tuyo? ¿Cómo, qué pasa por tu cabeza para que tu reacción sea la que todo el mundo piensa que es la última que tienes que estar haciendo?
Como ya son tantos años, uno va como aprendiendo de errores que tuvo. Y como le dije lo de la posición en la arquería, ya por cosas que uno ya vivido, yo he vivido como portero, mientras yo estoy tapando, yo estoy metido en el juego, pero también estoy pensando en lo que puede hacer el jugador. Y hay cosas que ya uno las ha vivido y ya uno sabe lo que va a hacer como portero. El que tiene años haciendo esto sabe de lo que un poco estoy hablando. Y son cosas que, como le dije, son de segundos. Si yo reacciono y me devuelvo, es un gol. Si ya yo salí, tengo que seguir adelante, porque cualquier cosa que eso puede ser un gol que no le caería bien al equipo.
I mean, it's all about experience. I've played so many games with so many different types of players that at some point there's a lot of situations that are very similar to each other. And just like in life, you learn from your mistakes. So it's more, it's not really only about my skill, but it's more about what I've lived before. You know, I've been lucky enough to play with a lot of players that are very, very, very talented. So there's a lot of situations that I already know more or less what a player of those type of abilities can do in that situation. So it might look risky, but once I've committed myself to come out my line and come out my safety area, I have to fully just go for it. Because if I just stop and go back, that if it ends on a goal, that puts my team in a very bad predicament.
You know, one thing that I'm seeing from chat, Coach Pierce Brannigan of Detroit Imperial said, "Hey Emerson, we have training. Did you let him know that you were going to miss training tonight?"
Leyendo el chat del live, tu entrenador acaba de escribir diciendo que si no sabías que hoy había entreno esta noche. Y la pregunta es, ¿les habías dejado saber que ibas a estar aquí?
Él sabe, hasta mismo ayer antes de terminar el partido le dije que hoy iba a faltar. Nos quedamos hasta entrenando un poquito más de tiempo.
He knows, he absolutely knows. We spoke about it yesterday, and we even went a little bit over practice, and we stayed even a little later because we both knew that I was gonna be here tonight.
That's cool. He just commented again and said, "I know." You know, he knew, which I assumed he did. I thought that was probably just a funny comment, but I figured I'd bring it up. That's pretty cool. Another question coming from the chat is about the Detroit Imperial team that you're on. What is, you know, your experience on that team? What is special about that culture? What is different? You know, how do you like it there as compared to other teams you've been on? Tell us a little bit about that.
¿Cómo es Detroit Imperial en comparación con otros equipos en los que has estado? ¿Te encuentras cómodo jugando con ellos? Más, no solo en temas de equipo, sino cómo está organizado el club, en temas, a lo mejor, cómo lo llevan comparado con los equipos profesionales en los que has jugado en el pasado.
Por lo que he vivido hasta el momento con ellos, lo llevan bien. No se puede comparar a lo de un equipo profesional, porque como te dije, hay muchas cosas que terapeuta, fisioterapeuta, todo eso que tienen, pero nos las llevamos muy bien y con el equipo me siento a gusto y cada día van agarrando como más confianza conmigo, porque como también te dije, nosotros somos una familia y yo entrenando, cuido a los jugadores. Yo lo que trato es que ellos en los entrenamientos de complicarle que me hagan un gol, no es que me estoy tirando como me ven en los otros partidos, pero trato de que ellos busquen con la manera de hacer un gol de otra manera. Ya en el juego yo ya soy diferente y demuestro otras cosas que en un entrenamiento no se los demuestre.
I mean, the team compared to a professional team, is different, right? You know, when it comes to logistics, like having physiotherapists, you know, having athletic trainers, you know, massage before and after games and stuff like that. I mean, that's probably the biggest difference in terms of the team. It's kind of like a family. And for example, in trainings, what I try to do is help them to find a way to score on me differently than when I do in a game, right?
Yeah.
So in a game, you'll see me do things that in training I'm not willing to do because I'm trying to get my teammates to get better by not only boosting their confidence, but also giving them situations that might happen in a game so that they can think of solutions for that.
That's really cool. That's really cool. You got any follow-ups in that regard?
Yeah, you know, as you were talking, one of the things I was thinking about, you share just a lot of the knowledge and wisdom that comes from experience. You know, we have a lot of young goalkeepers out there. What would you say to them as far as like how to know when to commit to come out?
Después de escuchar que eres un jugador que al fin y al cabo tiene mucha experiencia, esta liga se ve con muchísimos porteros que son muy, muy, muy jóvenes. ¿Qué consejos les darías para seguir mejorando, para mantener un nivel de motivación alto? ¿Qué les podrías decir a esos porteros tan jóvenes?
Como están empezando, tienen que primero aprender de sus errores. Yo antes tenía la manía de cuando los juegos tenían transmitido, yo terminaba y si había un gol que no me gustaba o me lo reclamaban, yo me ponía a ver los videos, a ver en qué fallé o en qué no. Y todavía yo veo demasiados juegos o videos de porteros de España. Antes de un partido de llegar, yo lo hago, me siento, veo 10 o 15 minutos, me veo un partido, más que todo me gusta el portero de Portugal, Bebe. Y me veo muchos videos de él y de ahorita el actual portero del Fútbol Club Barcelona.
So I would tell them that it's all about learning about your own mistakes. Experience is probably the thing that is going to help you get better the most. The more you play, the more you learn. The more you learn, the better you get. I used to have this thing that after games, whenever there was a goal that was, whenever there was a game that was televised and there was a goal in that game that I didn't like or I was getting, you know, blamed for, I would watch that same exact play a lot of times, right? So what I do now, it's before games, I try to see games from other professional goalkeepers. One that I really like them a lot, it's the Portuguese goalkeeper Bebe, which is also the starting goalkeeper for for Barcelona right now. And that kind of
really good.
Yeah,
really good. Yeah.
And that kind of helps me to get in the mentality before the game to see like, oh, let me try this today.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Follow up?
Yeah, go for it, man.
All right, so one of the things you talk about is learning from mistakes. And we saw you here against Lansing City the first time in Lansing, right here in this arena. And you had a really good game, but you all lost. What did you learn from that game? And then how did you adjust playing them this weekend?
Bueno, habiendo hablado de lo importante que es aprender de los errores de uno, la primera vez que viniste a jugar contra Lansing City, tuviste un muy buen partido. Pero, por desgracia, tu equipo acabó perdiendo. ¿Qué aprendiste de ese partido? Y teniendo en cuenta que vas a venir a jugar contra ellos este fin de semana, ¿cómo va a cambiar tu perspectiva del partido, teniendo en cuenta cómo viniste en aquel primer partido a este que vas a hacer hoy?
Aprendí mucho a pesar de que ese juego me lesioné. Y el segundo tiempo, todo lo que lanzaban hacia la portería, todo era a esa mano. Aprendí mucho que está la diferencia de lo que decimos que es el idioma. Yo los quería a los jugadores en un lado y no se podía, y que nos hacían falta muchos jugadores titulares. Y es mi primer juego con el equipo y no estaban todos. Me costó un poquito porque habían 2 jugadores nuevos y no sabía cómo manejarlos o controlarlos en la cancha. Pero ya que ya están regresando los titulares, ya hay un poco más de confianza y ya ellos yo debía adaptarme un poco a ellos y ellos se estaban adaptando a mí.
I mean, unfortunately, that game I got injured at the half. So after that, every single shot that Lansing City was taking on me was to that bad hand. So it was kind of hard going back to communication issues. We were missing a lot of our starters, and we had 2 new players that kind of like were not in team dynamic before that game. So that was kind of hard because I kind of needed them to be in specific spots for me to avoid those shots, but it couldn't really go my way.
Mm-hmm.
But in this game, I mean, I feel like we're ready, and we have worked on different dynamics. We have more players that are starters for us that are coming back into the team. So I feel like it's going to be a different game than the first time.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool insight. For those of you that are just tuning in, we have goalkeeper Emerson Mena of Detroit Imperial live here with us. We're going to have some more conversation with him, and if you have any questions for him, put them in the chat, and we can see about getting to them. But we're going to go take a short break here and send you to our sponsors, and we'll be back in just a little bit.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Go into the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Third Half Podcast. I'm Jared Klepp along with Gerard Iscani. Gerard, today we have a very special guest with us. It's Emerson Mena from Detroit Imperial, goalkeeper. We just had a whole session learning about his journey in futsal and how he got to the States. And now I'm curious to know a little bit more about him, you personally, Emerson. What is it? Simple question. What is it that you love about futsal? Why do you play the game?
Lo que amas del futsal. ¿Por qué es tu pasión? ¿Qué es lo que te motiva a continuar jugando?
Me gusta mucho la portería, el juego, y como a veces dicen que pasé portería y que está loco, entonces no, pero eso me gusta, y como soy muy hiperactivo, me ayuda mucho también.
So I have a lot of energy, and there's this saying that to be a good goalkeeper, you have to be a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I have.
So that just kind of like fits me. So I just love it because I don't know, I love being in goal, and that's just what I really like.
That's really cool. You know, we got a chance to talk a little bit before the broadcast, and you actually started playing baseball. So how did you what was it like? How did you go from baseball to futsal?
Cuando estábamos hablando al principio, nos sorprendió un poquito que dijeses que tu primer deporte había sido el béisbol. O sea, ¿cómo fue ese cambio de béisbol a fútbol? O sea, ¿cómo acabaste en este deporte, viniendo del béisbol, que es completamente diferente?
Como te comenté, estuve a punto de ser firmado para jugar béisbol, pero tuve una mala experiencia y me retiré, y mi hermana tiene un hermano que fue selección de Venezuela en fútbol 11. Me recomendó un equipo y ya yo estaba jugando, como te comenté, entre amigos y eso me terminó como de... Ya no, yo dije, ya no quiero el béisbol, me metí en el fútbol y me apasionó, como quien dice, más el fútbol después de tanto tiempo, y todavía sigo aquí.
Well, I mean, I love the baseball, but it just happened that with time I ended up having a bad experience, and it was just hard. So I kind of like retired. But my sister, who has a brother from a different marriage, he played for the Venezuelan national team for soccer, and he kind of like got me into soccer. And things in life, things leads to another. I started with soccer, went to football, soccer indoor, and then ended up at futsal, and that's kind of how I got here in life.
Gerard, do you have any questions about Emerson, who he is, and personality and things like that?
Well, one of the things you said that you love being here, and you see this as like being your future spot. Why? Like, why you played internationally, you've had opportunities across the world. Why the U.S.? Why Michigan?
Habiendo jugado en tantos sitios en el mundo, has dicho ya que te sientes muy cómodo aquí en Michigan y tienes pensado ya seguir aquí por mucho tiempo. ¿Por qué Michigan? ¿Por qué Detroit Imperial? Y teniendo en cuenta que has jugado a niveles tan altos, ¿por qué asentarte en una liga semiprofesional?
Como te dije, sí, ya me pienso sentar aquí. Espero muy pronto traerme a mi esposa y a mis 2 hijos. Y decidí como Michigan porque me gusta mucho el estado, a diferencia como yo llegué a Georgia, y Georgia es una locura total en cuanto a los autos. Todo es muy diferente aquí, todo es como más tranquilo y más calmado. Y como te dije que llegué, yo le escribí, yo creo que a todos los equipos de Detroit, de aquí de Detroit, de fútbol sala, le escribí por Instagram y por Facebook, y el que me respondió y donde fui aceptado fue Detroit Imperial.
Bueno, sí. Oh, wow. I knew it was going to happen. I mean, I'm just very comfortable here. I've been in a few states, and comparing the Michigan with, for example, Atlanta, Georgia, I mean, it's a different lifestyle. Atlanta is very chaotic. There's everything happening. It's just a lot. And here it's more calm. I plan on bringing my wife and 2 daughters up here at some point, and I just feel really comfortable. When I came here first, I messaged every single team basically that was here in Michigan, Detroit, Grand Rapids, and the one that answered my call was Detroit Imperial, and I couldn't be happier to be anywhere else.
Wow. That's really cool. Well, we're certainly glad that you ended up here and that you're playing in the FCS. We've loved, what we've seen, and kind of spurred on our topic for tonight about goalkeepers and who's the best goalkeeper. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So keep that in mind, those of you that are watching, who your top pick is for goalkeeper in the FCS. We've seen a lot of great keepers in the league, a lot of great saves and great keeper action. So let us know what you think. But I'm curious about kind of what's next for you, Emerson. We talk about you, you're feeling comfortable here, and you just started in this league 4 months ago with Detroit Imperial. What are your goals in futsal, and where do you want to try to go in this game?
Habiendo hablado de tantos temas como hemos hablado, estando con Detroit Imperial, ¿cuál es tu motivación con Detroit Imperial? ¿Qué esperas? ¿Estás jugando la liga con ellos? ¿Es interesante? ¿Sois un buen equipo? ¿Cuáles son tus metas con el equipo ahora mismo?
Me gustaría, como quien dice, ya quedar campeón de la liga en el nombre de Dios y seguir adelante, y si se presenta la oportunidad de que aquí se haga la liga profesional de futsal, seguir jugando con el equipo, o si ya toca cambiarse porque uno no sabe si el equipo se desintegre o pasen otras cosas, pero mientras se esté jugando futsal, todos estamos felices.
Well, first and foremost, in God's name, I really wish that we can win the league with Detroit Imperial. After that, you never know what can happen with a team. Love to continue to play for them, but if we have to switch teams or we have to change or go somewhere else, we will. As long as there's futsal going on, I will be there playing for whoever wants me.
That's awesome. That's one of the things that we've seen. Something that this league needs and futsal in the United States needs is people who view futsal like you, where it's like, you just love the game. You were talking about it a little bit in you being a goalkeeper and how it kind of fits you, and you say you have to be a little crazy, and I am this energetic guy. I kind of have that little craziness to me. That's really cool that someone who views futsal that way is playing in this league, because we need more of that. So that wasn't really a question, but just a comment, I guess.
Sí, no, creo que es muy importante para una liga como FCS tener a un jugador como tú que sea tan pasional, que esté aquí y que quiera jugar a futsal por lo que ama al juego, no por lo que el juego le pueda dar a él, sino por todo lo que tienes tú para darle al juego, a la liga, a tu equipo, y que eres definitivamente un ejemplo para todos aquellos que quieren meterse en el futsal y que quieren seguir jugando. Al fin y al cabo, ver a alguien que tiene pasión por algo y como tú lo ha perseguido es impresionante y algo que admirar.
Sí, como te dije, por lo menos en lo profesional, así uno no tenga sueldos. Así yo he jugado profesional, con sueldo y todo, sigo jugando con igualito. No le presto mucha atención, como quien dice, a que se necesite al dinero, pero no juego por el dinero, sino que es algo que me gusta.
Everybody needs money, but futsal is different, and even having played professional till today, it doesn't matter if I don't have a salary, I still play 100% just like I did when I did have one. And it's just a sport that I love, and I'll continue to play as long as I can.
I think it's pretty clear to see when you watch Emerson play how much he loves the sport. We've seen some incredible play from him, and the way that he, we were just looking at earlier today. I was looking at some of his kick saves and how he gets to the ground with his feet, and it was just amazing. As we wrap up our time here with our special guest, Emerson Mena, here on the Third Half Podcast, make sure if you have any questions for him, put them in the chat, and we'll see about if we can get to those. Gerard, you got a final couple of questions that you want to talk about?
Well, I'd love to do a lightning round with Emerson.
Okay, yeah.
I know we'll need the translator to go through, so it won't be as fast as a lightning round, but to give us a little insight into his personality.
Sure, yeah.
So first word that comes to mind.
Well, do you want to explain the lightning round first? Let's do that.
Bueno, ahora lo que vamos a hacer es como preguntas relámpago, así muy rápidas, preguntas que son rápidas de hacer y que queremos una respuesta así que sea también corta y rápida. Exacto.
All right, first word. Weather.
Wait, what?
I don't think I understand
I
either.
know.
What are you saying, Gerard?
What comes to mind when I say weather?
Que él va a decir una palabra y quiere saber qué es lo primero que se te viene a la cabeza con la palabra que él va a decir. Bueno, él lo va a decir en inglés, yo te lo voy a traducir, tú lo vas a decir. Entonces yo lo voy a traducir y se lo voy a decir. Exacto, o sea, va a ser en plan... weather.
Yeah, weather.
El tiempo. Best.
Oh, best city in the U.S.
Mejor ciudad en los Estados Unidos. New York.
Yeah, New York.
Okay.
Best candy.
Mejor chuchería. Chocolate.
Is that an easy one? It seemed like
Yeah,
that's easy.
Yeah.
Era la más fácil de contestar. El chocolate es lo que más te gusta.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Best thing.
What kind of chocolate?
¿Qué tipo de chocolate? Black.
Oh.
Like dark chocolate?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Do you have like a pregame meal that you eat?
¿Algún lonche que comas siempre antes de los partidos?
Yes. That's amazing. That's incredible. I know that you said that some of your family was watching. I think your mom was watching the stream. Do you have any words for any family that are watching right now that you'd like to say?
Teniendo en cuenta que has dicho que tenías familiares que estaban viendo el live ahora mismo, ¿hay algo que te gustaría decirles?
No, que los amo y los extraño mucho y que en el nombre de Dios pronto nos veremos.
Nothing. I love you guys, and hopefully in God's name we get to see each other soon, because I really miss you guys.
Wow. Yeah, I was thinking about that with your wife and children not being here. That would be, just really difficult to be separated for so long. I guess I don't know how long, but any length of time is a lot. So, any other questions in the lightning round?
Well, no, just a call out for the bio. We've been doing player bios in the league, and a lot of the things we talked about in the lightning round were actually in the bio. So I knew a couple of them, especially chocolate and your fondness for it. What I think about New York, right? Why is New York City your favorite city?
¿Por qué sería Nueva York esa ciudad favorita tuya, esa ciudad que te gusta?
Porque, no sé, pero como es país latino, siempre a nosotros nos meten es como esa ciudad en las películas, en todo, y tengo familia allá y me gustaría, no he podido, pero en el nombre de Dios que se me haga la posibilidad de viajar para allá.
As South American and Latino, New York is kind of like the most iconic city. It's always there, movies, series, it's probably one of the biggest cities in the world, if not the biggest, most known city. And even though I haven't been able to be there yet, in God's name, I really, really hope I can go soon.
Looks like there's a couple of messages in the chat written in Spanish. Can you read them?
My wife and my mom.
And what did they tell you?
Oh, ¿qué están diciendo? ¿Puedes leer las preguntas? My wife said, "We love you," and my mom said, "God bless you always."
Wow, that's awesome. Well, it's so cool that you Emerson's family joined us. Thanks for watching. Maybe do you want to tell them this? Thank you for watching. We're so glad that you are tuning into our broadcast.
A la familia de Emerson, muchísimas gracias por vernos. Ha sido un placer tenerlo aquí y ha sido un placer que vosotros podáis ver la entrevista.
And Emerson, thank you so much for coming in here to our studio in Lansing to be a part of this podcast. It was a great pleasure to get to know you more and get to know your story a little bit. So thanks so much, and we're excited to see you in action again.
Muchas gracias por haber venido a la entrevista, haber venido aquí a Lansing a formar parte de un podcast más. Y esperemos que te podamos ver en el campo y otra vez aquí pronto.
Thank you so much, appreciate it, y espero que sigamos viviendo cosas buenas juntos aquí, que la vivamos todo en el nombre de Dios.
Thank you so much, and I hope we can continue to live these experiences together in God's name for a long time.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. We're going to go to a quick break, and then Gerard and I are going to preview the upcoming week, talk a little bit about last week. We're going to have a kind of a final maybe 10-minute segment or so just to catch up on a few other things in the league. So thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to send you to our sponsors. Don't go anywhere.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Going to the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the third half podcast by the FCS Live team. I'm Jared Kleppel along with Gerard Iscani. If you just missed it, we had Detroit Imperial goalkeeper Emerson Mena here on the show, just talking all about his futsal experience. He's been playing for, I think he said 17, 18 years. Very interesting. If you missed it, make sure you go back and check it out. But now it's going to lead us to our main question of the night. And it is, who do you think is the best goalkeeper in the FCS? We've seen a few of you comment in the chat. Most recently, Jose Vicario. We have a very firm believer that Jose Vicario is the best goalkeeper in the league. So we'd love to hear your thoughts. But Gerard, I want to ask this question to you. What do you think? Who's your top keeper in the league? Let's go through some of the keepers we've seen in the outstanding performances.
Yeah, so one of the first keepers that we saw together, the first game we ever called together, was Postuma for Midwest. And there was just an absolute barrage of goals that he withstood every single game we've seen him play this season.
Yeah.
But his shot stopping was really on another level. And so we called that out every time we watched him play. His shot stopping's really there.
He's gotten a lot of chances.
He's got a lot of chances. One thing we've talked a lot
sure.
about with Michael Forbes. So last week I did say, and before that I said that he was the best keeper in the league. You know, from a standpoint of offensive prowess, still hands down is the best offensive goalkeeper in the league. In the chat, Jose Vicario is getting called out. Wow.
I got to say one thing about offensive prowess. Probably the only other keeper we've seen come out in the same frequency, maybe even more, Miguel Cervantes, the second goalkeeper for Midwest United. What do you think about his ability to come out as compared to Michael Forbes?
So the difference with Miguel and Michael, so Michael comes out as a goalie trying to score, whereas Miguel comes out trying to distribute. So it's just a little bit of a difference in mindset. So when we see Michael Forbes come out, like we've talked about, he rivals Jeremy Kleppel with the strength of his right leg, right? So he blasts those shots, and I don't think that we've seen Miguel Cervantes take any of those shots in that same manner. So it's more of like distribution, right? So
like you feel like he's specifically coming up to be a fifth attacker to open up the game, and Forbes is coming up as a dagger to try to put something away.
Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, and he is very aggressive as well with those shots. So he's not just coming up to be an extra attacker. He's coming up with purpose to score.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we just had Emerson Mena on the podcast here. He's been in 2 games for Detroit Imperial. And, based on the last game, we when we talked about the last game, the single biggest difference in that game was the goalkeeping on both sides.
Yeah, it was. And this is the part that really cements the conversation as far as who the best goalkeeper is in the league. And it makes it clear, especially when you hear about his background professionally. So Emerson's positioning on the court, like his understanding, he gave us this analogy that really kind of opened my mind to understanding his perspective of a clock, right? And of thinking of no matter where the ball's at on the court, there's always a position as a goalie that you need to be in. And he demonstrated at a really high level just a really acute awareness of very specifically where he needed to be on the court. And it was just mind-blowing to see time and time again throughout the game that Lansing City was getting fantastic opportunities on goal, but somehow he knew exactly where to be to prevent them from even coming close to scoring.
Hearing about particularly the challenges with the language barrier too. This is something that we knew when we first heard about Emerson, that he only spoke Spanish. We heard from Coach Pierce kind of along the lines of what you said, that his play is a language. He's like, I can't really communicate with him very well, but I know he's a great goalie. And so he was in, got the spot when Michael Forbes was unavailable on the first occasion that Lansing City played them here. And to answer this question directly, in my point of view, yes, I think Emerson Mena is the best goalkeeper in the league. And watching him play this last week is those 2 games. I mean, he's only played 2 games, and that's probably a case against that point of view. And I'd say the other biggest case against it is that in those 2 games, I think he's given up 9 goals apiece in those 2 games. But I think if he's not in net, I think the score sheet is ripped much higher than that. I think it's very reasonable to think that.
Yeah, I mean, before he got hurt in the first game, he was having a phenomenal impact on the game, and he had a ton of tremendous saves. So you think prior to the injury, what he was, and then after the injury, there was just a flood of goals that came in. And then this last weekend, Saturday night, wow, like just his positioning, his understanding of where to be on the court. There was this play, Jeremy Kleppel broke off to the left-hand side of the penalty area, and he had Elijah Vu having a back post run. And what was so smart from Emerson is the angle that he took not only shut down Jeremy's ability to score, but it also cut down the ability to make the pass too. So he basically denied the opportunity coming out of the arc with a sliding tackle. And it was I'm like watching it and saying, wow, this is like super aggressive, dangerous. If he doesn't make this tackle, if he doesn't stop the ball, like it's a goal for sure. But he not only stopped the shot on goal, but he also prevented the pass by taking the angle away. And so it's just such an intelligent movement of where to be and then when to be there as well.
And I think not only in his movement have we seen these, he talked about it when he was here, his experience. It's like his experience is coming out. His 17, 18 years of playing, his time in Argentina coming out. He's showing that he knows how to be in certain positions to do that, what you're just describing. But it's not only his positioning and his timing, but if you look at how many chances he holds on to. I mean, we've seen some keepers in the FCS try to hold on to some shots, and it actually turns into they bobble it, it's on the goal line, a goal is scored. But it's especially in this last game, I was blown away at how many times there was a shot and it's just glue in his hands, and he hangs out, and that's huge. It's huge to prevent the rebound in the game of futsal.
Yeah, and you have to wonder, how does he do it? Because the ball comes in there so fast.
And sometimes it was really close, and he's
angle,
just
and that's a huge thing too, because instead of just deflecting it out, which we've talked about that too, some of the times when tough shots come in goal, we're like, why don't they just deflect it out? Why don't they just, play for the corner, take the safe way out? And sometimes they don't, and they deflect it back into the middle of the court, and then we see a goal score or another shot on goal. And so Emerson, not only was he not giving the other team the rebound or giving them the corner kick, right, by deflecting it out, he was able to maintain possession of it. So that's a huge, a huge strength for him.
Now, I kind of want to throw in another bonus goalkeeper question, and it has to do with the two goalkeeper kind of method. We've talked a little bit about this before. Grand Rapids Ole, they seem to do this every game. They have Frankie Mendoza and Andres Montes that will each usually play a half. We've seen Midwest United do this in many games. We've seen Jose Vicario start out and Miguel Cervantes, next. Atlantic City, we have seen two keepers for them. In my opinion, it hasn't been quite the same. It's never been like halftime switch out. It's been some kind of tactical, one game Conrad starts, one game Ethan starts. Ethan started one and kind of got pulled early, and Conrad came back on, and so it has not seemed the same in my eyes. But what's your take on that? The two goalkeeper system. What do you think?
It's interesting because when we think about all of those different goalkeepers, they each add a unique element to the game. And for me, looking at Midwest and the way that Midwest United plays and seeing the difference between their two keepers, Vicario and Cervantes have a completely dissimilar style. And we talked about that. We talked about Cervantes being a much more aggressive, attacking mindset goalie, and flying a lot more often than Vicario would. And for me, I think that there's a lot of value in that situationally, depending on what the game needs. But on the other hand of it, when you have a completely different dynamic from your goalkeepers, I start to wonder, is it actually a benefit?
Yeah.
To do that, to pre-plan that out before the game,
right,
as opposed to letting the game flow dictate it. So it's one of the things when we talked about this a few different times, offensive, defensively, like who's dictating the flow of the game. And so what it seems like a lot of times with these teams with two goalies is that they'll already have it pre-planned who's going to play when,
right,
as opposed to letting the game flow dictate it. And so sometimes they might be making a decision to change the goalie when it's actually not the best decision for what's needed in that game.
Or waiting until halftime when maybe it would be a better decision. And I know it does kind of play into confidence, right? Like your coach's confidence, your team's confidence in you as a goalkeeper.
Yep.
that is a huge factor. I think in one of our conversations, you kind of mentioned it about in football, like you have two quarterbacks, you have none.
Yeah, there's this cliche in football that when there's these battles in training camp for the starting quarterback position, and you have like your 1A and 1B. If you got two starters, you got none. And that's one of the things I think about a lot of times with these goalies is if you have two that are on this equal playing field where it's like as a coach, you're like, all right, well, you can have the first half, you can have the second half. Then even for the team, it's like there's not necessarily a set standard of who is your goalie.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times in outdoor, the goalie takes the number 1 jersey, right? And that number 1 is really the mark to say this is our goalie. This is the person that's going to be trusted every single game for 90 minutes, right, for outdoor. And so in futsal, I always wondered about that. Like, we don't see that same level of really, like, commitment to a goalie for the full 40 as far as, like, hey, Emerson Maine is number 1. But then you have somebody like Michael Forbes. So it's like, what do you do? And so I can see how, like, Gio Garcia in Midwest United really has that kind of battle to figure out, like, you have two phenomenal goalkeepers. How do you just commit to just one, especially when they bring something completely different?
Yeah. It's interesting, too, because there's two things that I think about just very practically in the FCS this year when it comes to this dual goalkeeper approach. The two that I think of is Midwest United and Grand Rapids Ole. I feel like those are really the only two teams we've seen do this, and in our talks with the coaches, like, we have one in one half, one in the next half, and it's like planned out. On the Ole side, I feel like as a viewer, as a commentator, I don't feel like I have gotten to know who those goalkeepers are as well because they're splitting. And, as a commentator, my attention is divided. I can't focus on small details like that. And so it's like they blend together and I don't really know who they are. And I wonder, like, if Ole had, sticks with one of them, is my opinion different on who the best keeper is? Because, I mean, we know that Ole has not given up many goals this year. They have not lost a game. I don't know. Do you feel the same?
So funny story. So Andres Montez for Ole just submitted his bio. You can go check it out. Look at the roster for Ole on our FCS website. And when he submitted it, he actually submitted some videos with it too in preparation for this, saying like, hey, I'm the best goalie in the league, and like check out. And it's like, wow, incredible saves. And I was thinking back to some of the games. It's just what you're talking about. We don't necessarily see his impact in the same way because their entire defense is so solid. Like, that's when I think about the best defensive team in the league, it's Ole hands down, and it's really because of the way they work together as a unit. And because of they're so strong as a defensive unit, you end up not getting to see him stand out as much. And then he's rotating as well in goalie. And so, Luke Miller points this out in the chat. If the future of the goalie is like this rotation, maybe independent of halves, where like more of a situational sub for goalie, it's a really interesting thing. We talk a lot during the games about the momentum shift, and in hockey there's these lines, and they change things up. And in futsal we have lines where you can change your mentality, where you go from playing a 3-1. Where you play with a pivot kind of up the court, to a 4-0 where you're really playing more free-flowing offensively. But what if we did the same type of thing with the goalie and you have almost a different line that you play? Because when I think about what Pierce Brannigan's having to work through right now, he has somebody that we just said is the best goalie in the league, when less than a week ago I was saying that Michael Forbes was the best goalie in the league. And it's like you have two incredibly talented goalies. Why limit yourself in such a way that, okay, Emerson gets the first half, Michael gets the second half? Why not have these fluid changes where you have lines created to actually help that goalie stand out more?
I wonder, like maybe there's a world where this makes sense. Like you said, with a line, I know like subbing a keeper is different than subbing as a court player. I know also just like the flow of the game. I mean, this would be a great question for a goalkeeper, and maybe we should have asked it when Emerson was here, when we had one literally sitting right there. But I gotta imagine that there's this like getting your feet wet in a game that you kind of need as a goalkeeper to kind of settle in. I feel like that would mess with that a lot, to have it in like flows. I don't know. It seems quite unrealistic from my standpoint, but in theory, it's like, okay, yeah, great. Like let's have these like two lines that are super efficient and super meld together. But it's like in reality, like the subbing of the keeper, the getting settled in the game, even like the goalkeeper should probably be playing the role of like he may not be the captain, but he can see everything, right? And sometimes the goalies are the captains, but like the goalkeeper can see everything. The goalkeeper should be communicating a lot. The goalkeeper should. So it's like, how do you do multiple of this? I mean, it's like, I just don't see. Maybe I just haven't watched the right combination, the right teams do it. I just don't see the value of it. I mean, it's like in for an example with the Midwest team, like I don't have anything against Miguel Cervantes, but I just feel like he's been a worse keeper than Jose Vicario. Like I feel like Vicario has been great, and Cervantes, like I've seen him play futsal. He's been kind of more of a veteran in the league, and I've seen him play really well. And this season, I feel like he's kind of given up some goals, and I don't know why Vicario is not just number one all the time.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I agree with that position, and I don't really understand it either. It's one of the things, and I love to hear Coach Totoro after the game against Lansing City. He talked about that as well, like the goalie changes. So he wanted to put Wes Rastorf in goal when Tommy Sawa was having a really great game in the first half. And then they come out in the second half, they let in a few goals really quick, and the game gets out of hand, and then we bring Tommy Sawa back in.
Yeah.
And so I feel like some of the times there's this push and pull tension of wanting to even potentially develop talent and like doing what's better for the long run as opposed to what's better in the moment. And so maybe even that's some of the factor as well as far as like looking at how do we develop, because Midwest has some other young goalkeepers as well that we haven't even seen in action yet.
Midwest United, you said?
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't aware.
So it was just at a futsal tournament.
Oh, futsal.
Yeah,
okay.
So,
I was like, did I miss something on the rosters? My conversation, like I'm not aware of any other goalkeepers on their team, and I'm about to get exposed live right now. I was like, oh my goodness. But you're saying in youth tournaments you've seen.
So
gotcha.
Andre Rodriguez, he was playing on, I think it was like the U17 team. And he really did an outstanding job. I know the level of talent is not the same as in FCS, but really like his positioning, his distribution, the way he was working with his team, it was really great to see him. And I got to talk to him after the game, and he's not quite on the level yet to compete with Vicario and Cervantes, but he's young, he's talented. When does he get an opportunity?
Yeah.
Right, and it's one of the things that I know Lansing City's working through. Right, like do you keep Conrad in goal? Or do you bring in Ethan Castaneda to develop? And it's always that battle of like, it might be harder and more challenging tonight when we're playing, but it's better for us in the future to get that experience, because we just heard Emerson talk about one of the most important developmental aspects for any young goalkeeper is experience and making mistakes.
Yeah. Well, who's the best goalkeeper in the FCS? What do you think? To me, I think it's pretty clear. Emerson Mena, he has given up 18 goals in 2 games, yes, but I think maybe 38 goals get scored if he's not in. Maybe that's probably a bit much, but I mean I feel like what I've seen from him is that's where I stand. I think he's the best keeper in the league. What do you think? Who's the best keeper in the FCS? That's the question for tonight. But before we wrap up this segment, we got to look ahead at what's to come this week. We have a doubleheader of games this Saturday. Lansing City's taking on Midwest, and Grand Rapids Olay is going against Imperial. So first, I want to say we are seeing the return of Midwest for the first time. What does it say there? Since December 1st. Of last year. They're returning against Lansing City this weekend at 7.
I'm not too hopeful about what we will see from them, just based on what we have seen so far this season. They do have some new players coming. We don't know much about them yet.
I did find out a little bit.
Okay.
So I've heard of one for sure, new player registered since their game on December 1st, and I've heard of 2 more potentially. So we have 2 potential new players, one for sure new player. But that's just registration. That's just coming from, hey, the FCS says, hey, we've received this kind of registration. So we don't know if that means they're going to get rostered. We don't, but potentially 3 new faces.
I'll say this: one of their most dependable people this season has been, is it Joshua Hahn?
Oh yeah,
he's 13.
There's 2 of them. There's
and his brother, I think Nathan Hahn.
Nathan, yeah.
And when you think about that, I mean, these are grown men playing this game, and I know Lansing City has a lot of young talent, but a 13-year-old playing here, like just the physicality is so hard, right? And I think that's when you think about what they're doing in Midwest and what they're trying to do to continue to develop talent. We know that their plan coming into the season was really about development, and it wasn't. They weren't necessarily coming out to try to win the league. And so hopefully they can continue to develop. I'm excited to see Pasham again because we haven't seen him in a while. And like we said earlier in the segment, he is a great shot stopper. So we know Lansing City is going to be taking a lot of shots. So we'll get to see him in action.
Yeah, and the last time these 2 teams met, it actually was at the arena because Midwest is hosting home games there. And I think they're going to have some of their home games here. They might be playing some of their home games the rest of the season elsewhere. But and in that game, we had probably the best goal that we've seen all year long from Luciano Seranuda. And that one's going to be at 7 p.m. this Saturday. And the reality is, Midwest is their first game since December 1st. They're at a negative 68 goal differential. Lansing City's playing at home. It's hard to think that there's a world where anything happens but a Lansing W.
Well, I was wrong last weekend, so I thought that Lansing City was going to walk away with that with pure dominance, and it didn't happen. So, I could be wrong again, but I think more of the same. Lansing City going to run away with it.
And, this game, even though it may seem like it's going to be a lopsided game, that's kind of what we expect. There is implications as far as playoffs go. So the semifinals are on March 22nd, scheduled right now, and the finals are planning to be the next week. After points, the first tiebreaker is goal differential. So for Lansing City to have a game against Midwest still, I mean, if you want to try to get in the playoffs,
yeah, that's how you do it.
You're trying to, score as many and win by as many goals as possible.
And this is the time to do it when you're playing against Midwest. Last time they played, I think they scored. They had a plus 17.
I think it was 19-2.
Yeah,
I think it was 19-2.
If they can do more of the same, because when you look at the standings right now, Lansing City does have the goal differential on Jenga. 20 to Jenga's -4, but they're tied with Detroit Imperial for goal differential. When we look at points, those are the 3 teams that we're anticipating being really close at the end of the season. So even if Lansing City walks away at full points, it's really a matter of how many goals can they score.
Yeah.
So really, anything 15 plus is going to put them in a really good position.
So we'll just break it down really quick as far as the playoff picture goes. So Grand Rapids Olay, they're in. Midwest United, they're in. We have 3 teams. Midwest FC is out. So you have 3 teams. You have Lansing City, you have Detroit Imperial, and you have Jenga FS, and they're all fighting for the final 2 spots. So one of those 3 teams doesn't make it. Jenga right now, 12 points. They play Midwest.
Yep.
So the way things have gone, you expect that to be 15. And so then that is your threshold. So hang on a second. If Midwest... So Midwest is not technically eliminated then. Because if Midwest wins out, then they have 15 and Jenga has 12, right? But if they win out.
If they win out.
So,
yeah, I mean.
I don't think we have to say any more about that situation.
Yeah.
We don't think it's going to happen. But we can't technically say that they're out because they could. Theoretically, they could. We'll just leave it there. But you expect Jenga to get the to 15, and then Detroit Imperial right now, they're at 12. They play Ole this weekend, which we're going to talk about in a second, and they play Midwest at home. Lansing City's at 9, and they play Midwest at home and Ole at home. So if you take those scenarios, right? Let's just talk about it this weekend. Detroit goes to Grand Rapids. They are sitting at 12 points. So if they can hit that 15 mark, at most they're tied in points, and then it goes to goal differential with whoever's tied with them.
Yeah, if they win this weekend, I don't see a reason or a chance that they're not playoffs.
You think they're going to win the next game too?
Well, no, I mean if they win this one, because they'd be at 15 points. That feels like the magic number right now is 15. Get to 15, you're in.
But what if Jenga wins?
For Detroit.
For Detroit.
Because if Jenga gets to 15, they're at a -4 differential right now. We haven't seen their offensive prowess at any point this season to lead us to believe that they're going to score, that they're going to be able to overcome a 20-goal differential. Because right now they're down by 24 goals to Detroit Imperial. So if Detroit Imperial walks away with a win, they're looking set for the playoffs.
So for Detroit Imperial, it's like, can you win one of your last two, and can you maintain this goal differential of about where you're at? And for Jenga, you're trying to get as many back against Midwest as you can.
Yep.
And for Lansing City, either you got to win both games and have keep your goal differential, or you got to hope that Midwest pulls a fast one on Jenga.
That's what going into the game last weekend, we thought the only reason that Lansing City didn't have to win against Imperial was because they had 2 winnable games on the back half of that, right? They had the game against Midwest, we're going to say is 3 points, and then the game against Ole, which is a rematch of the first game that they played in Grand Rapids, but this game's going to be in Lansing, and they had 2 goals specifically that were basically gifted to Ole. So if they don't gift those goals away, they don't make those mistakes, Lansing City wins that game. And so there are 2 definite winnable games for them. So if they take 6 points the last 2 games, then they're set as well. And so that's what it really comes down to, is really who's going to show up against Ole. Lansing City, are they going to walk away with points, or Detroit Imperial? So we're going to see it first this weekend, Detroit Imperial. That's the game I'm looking for this weekend, hoping to be there. We'll see how that works out. But, the thing, we talked about it so many times, court size. This is going to be the rematch, but it's going to be on a much bigger court in Grand Rapids, in that the homeschool building, as compared to the futsal sala court size, which is really small and narrow. So, personally, even though we did just blow up Emerson and talk about him being the best goalie, I don't see how they walk away with the W against Ole, because Ole still has demonstrated that they're the best team in town.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be my take coming into this game. I didn't hear exactly how long the suspension for Davide DePoce was. I know it was at least a game. I haven't heard if he's going to be back for this one or not. You would assume that they're going to have their players back. I do think. I think Detroit's gonna come in really, really wanting that game, especially if DePoce's back in, because we know how he felt about being ejected from that game and feeling like that changed the game quite a bit. So I know that they're gonna want it. I think that Ole is gonna take that one too. They surprised us this last weekend.
They did.
So they could do it again. And Ole, of course, they are sitting in the playoffs. So it's like, they have it set already. The result doesn't affect them, but I know they're going to come out swinging, coming to win. So that's the doubleheader going on this weekend. First at 7 p.m. it's Lansing City hosting Midwest, and then after that it's going to be Grand Rapids Ole hosting Imperial at 8:30. So our coverage is going to start right around 6:30. Because of the games being so close, we're going to do our best to get the action of both games kind of set, and we we might have to hustle around a little bit to make this happen. But we're excited for both these games. Who do you got in these games? Let us know in the chat. Let's do our official predictions, Gerard. That's how we'll wrap it up.
Official predictions, Lansing City, I say 13-0.
13-0. You think they're only going to get 13 this time?
Yeah, I do.
And no goals given up.
No goals.
No goals. 13-0 for Lansing. What about Ole in Detroit?
Ole, Detroit, 5-2.
5-2.
Ole.
So I don't know what to do about the numbers, man. Like I don't know. I just don't even think about like, well, how many goals are they going to score? I don't know. For the Lansing City Midwest, it feels easy to be like, well, it's going to be somewhere in the double digits. But maybe one day I will be like prepared to give like a number. But I'm definitely going to say Lansing City takes it. And I'm going to say I think Grand Rapids Ole is going to take it as well. And maybe Detroit Imperial will watch us and be like, we're going to go win another one because these guys keep saying that we're going to lose. But hey, this is that's all right. If that's what they want to do, that's great. But I think Ole at home, I think Ole takes it. So. Yeah,
I mean, the storyline I'm really excited to watch and look out for is if Michael Forbes is there and Emerson is there, how does Pierce piece this together to maximize the talent of both of those great players?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I personally, I think we'll see Forbes in goal. I think we'll see him start. I understand. I don't know. Nothing else really to say about that, but that's just what I think.
Yeah.
That's just what I think. So, I'll throw it over to you for the last. I said last word last week. I didn't actually mean one word, but you can make it one word if you want. But Gerard, last word.
Oh, last word. Goalie rotation.
Goalie rotation.
2 words.
It's 2 words, but like I said.
No, but it'll be interesting to see. So, we just talked about what Imperial is potentially, what challenges they face with their goalies. But just like we talked about with Ole, what are we going to see out of them? Are they going to switch the goalies? And maybe now that we've had all of this attention over the goalies the last couple of weeks in the world of futsal in the Midwest, maybe we take a deeper look at Ole's goalies and maybe see what we might have been missing earlier in the season.
And Jake was trying to get his own last word in, and his word was weather. But you know what? I'm going to go with Gerard's last word. Sorry about that one. Thanks so much for tuning in to the third half. I'm Jerry Club along with Gerard Ascani. We hope you had a great time tuning in and chatting with us. If you didn't get a chance to see our interview with Emerson Mena and interpreter Rafa, who was absolutely amazing, huge shout out to him. It couldn't have happened without him. Go back and watch it because it was really intriguing to hear about Emerson's story and how he got to where he is and his experience in futsal. But that's where we're gonna leave it tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're gonna see you guys this Saturday for some more FCS action, the doubleheader. From the FCS Live team, I'm Jared Kleppel along with Gerard Ascani. We're gonna send you to our sponsors. Thank you and good night.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Going to the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.